Today, we have Stephen Karashinsky with Ziro to discuss making unified communications easy. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, Mindy, and nice to meet everybody. Pleasure to be here today. I'm with my colleague, Fred Couture, and so the two of us, to start, will be your Ziro team, really all focused around capturing the Microsoft Teams calling opportunity, which is pretty huge, and we're going to get into it as we speak. I know Mindy said save your questions for the end. Uh, we don't mind if you want to interrupt us as we go. If there's something you see on your mind, I'd much rather this be a conversation. So please feel free to interrupt us. Just quickly about us, we've been in this business for 14 years. We started in 2010. We were working really exclusively with Cisco and really merged into the Microsoft world about 4 years ago, with some shakeups and things happening in the Cisco world and really the takeoff of Microsoft in this space. Proud to say that we've got probably the most complete offer in the industry, but we'll get to that stuff a little bit later. Still have a focus around Microsoft and Cisco, although I would say the most of our work is focused around what Microsoft is doing. It's just because that's what every customer wants to talk about. They need to move to Teams calling. They want to move to Teams calling. They have to, depending on where it's coming from within the organization. A lot of times they're still integrating with their Cisco environment. So we've got capabilities across those to make things work for the customer. We've got a purpose-built platform that we'll share with you to help really streamline the entire process from migrating a customer into Teams and then allowing them to work and make it easy for them and simplify things on the day two side. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. We've got over 1.2 million devices that we're supporting really across the globe, and manage and support any environment that we touch as long as the customer is open to it, obviously, 24/7, 365. So that's kind of us quickly in a bit of a nutshell. What I think is important to talk about today when we're thinking about Teams calling is that there's really a major paradigm shift happening. And what this move, and so we want to help our partners. We're new to Clarus, TDM, and Wheelhouse as well. And what we want to help is be on side of this shift and to be the Ubers, the Netflix, and the Starbucks, as opposed to the Blockbusters and those sort of things. And what the shift is all about a move from the folks that have been really focused around telecom and IT really taking over. You might have seen some of this data from earlier this year or late last year, where IT has taken over global spend for the first time ever, trumping telecommunications for the first time. So what that means is that the buyers today in our organizations are IT buyers and have an integration, best experience mindset first, as opposed to best of breed. And the reason that Microsoft is so successful is that when you look at this slide, most of the things that people are touching or working in every single day, including you and me, are living in Microsoft. And they are the ones that have created this phenomenal employee experience where all of these applications are integrated, are working together. And that is why Microsoft is so dominant, so strong. You've probably seen the stats that I have, where they've got like over 400 million users on Office 365. There's over 320 million monthly active users on Teams. So we're trying to go where the puck is, so to speak, if I can use a hockey expression. We're trying to play where customers want. And that's why Teams has been so dominant and strong. And you even see it in the stats on users. Microsoft, this data is probably a couple of months old, has, I think, 21 or 22 million PSTN users today. It's more than 2.5 times the next top competitors, whether that be Cisco, Zoom, or RingCentral. So what we're trying to do, and the unique value we bring to the table, which I'll get to in a second, is all around capturing this opportunity. We're doing some work with Microsoft right now, where they've identified that there's still about 90 million on-prem seats out there to be converted over the cloud. That's a phenomenal opportunity for us to go and represent, take advantage of. And I think we've got some of the tools and technology to solve by doing that. So what I'd like to do for a second is, before we just get into, what we do and our products and services, I think it's important to just understand what the challenges are in Teams calling. And I believe several of you, if not all of you, have had a Teams calling opportunity or have sold telephony to some degree. The challenges around the Teams calling lie in the fact that they're pretty long sales cycles. And this stems from the fact that customers really don't know what they have, what they need, or what they're using today. It takes multiple vendors to put together a full solution, whether we're talking about recording, faxing, paging, contact center, analog devices. Some people are still using hard phones. So somebody needs to manage, put this all together and bring it to the table for a customer. This is one of the areas, and Microsoft's done a little bit of a disservice for themselves in being such a big promoter of Operator Connect, because Operator Connect, at the end of the day, all it is really just PSTN. The same way your on-prem customer has PSTN today, Operator Connect is PSTN. Yes, there's a direct path to Microsoft. I'm not, denying that, but it is not a full, complete solution. And that's why customers that have it get a little bit frustrated, because they don't know how all these other pieces are going to connect or who's going to do it for them. You may have noticed that installs take a long time. There's often delays, and that's because moving from a carrier is complicated. Carriers do not want to let go of those numbers. They will make it as difficult as they possibly can be. And so we've got some solutions to address this. And finally, day two is an issue. Most folks moving from an on-prem world into a cloud world, into Teams, have concerns because they are not Microsoft experts. They have spent their time in telecom and know that stuff really well. So when they hear about Teams Admin Center, PowerShell, other aspects in the Office 365 tenant, it's scary, because it is a new world for them. It's a new way of doing things. And companies, our customers, may not have the skills and ability to support this environment once it's installed. So these are the challenges, and what I'm going to walk you through, and this is where our unique value comes from, that hopefully we all leverage together, is how do we address these things and make it easy for a customer to move, manage, and support this stuff once it's implemented. Any questions thus far? I know I'm talking a little bit quick because we've only got 30 minutes, but just take a pause for a sec. Any questions or thoughts before I go on?
No questions so far, so you can continue.
Okay, thank you. So with all of the tools we've put together, we believe strongly, and can prove it, and we'll do it in a minute, that we have got the most complete Microsoft Teams calling offer in the market. And part of the reason is, one, we're modernizing the way telephony is migrated, implemented, and supported. The technology has evolved quite a bit over the last 20 plus years, but the way we do a telephony migration and implementation is pretty much the same way it's been the last 20 or 30 years. It's super manual, super laborious, and super dependent on the customer. And so we flip that script and change it to create these great experiences in the fastest time to value. And the fastest time to value piece is a win for your customer, because they get this technology installed fast, accurate, on time, so they can get the value and reap the ROI that they thought they were going to at the beginning of this implementation. When things drag on, one, their ROI starts to wither. Two, the folks on the project start to get antsy because they've got other projects that they're not fulfilling. So that's really important. You folks win because once this thing is installed, we all get paid faster, and we win because we get paid faster as well. So it's a real win-win-win. But contextually, part of the advantages and where we came up with to offer this most complete offer stems from the fact that we really look at every aspect of the customer journey to create those great experiences and reduce that time to value as much as possible. We look at day zero, where there's that evaluation, discovery, planning; day one, where there's the implementation; and day two, which is really all the operations and lifetime with this technology. Most of our competitors, people that you're probably very familiar with and working today, spend all their time in day one. They come in, they get this thing implemented, they move out, and they're out. But what's really important is that most of the time, and the TCO of these projects is done not in day one, done in day 0 and day 2. You've seen the stats from Gartner where 80% of the TCO is living in day 2. So we really focus on this entire thing, and that's what's helped us build this differentiated value. I'm going to talk about 3 aspects of this to give you some concrete examples of what I'm talking about. Let's start day 0. Your customer has a need, a want, a desire. They need to change their phone system. The reason at this point, we'll save that from when we're engaged, hopefully on an opportunity together. But what happens every time you approach a customer for a new phone system? We go through the same thing. We say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, what do you have in your environment? How is it set up? How is it configured? Who are your users? What are your numbers? Who's even using this phone system? How's your hunt groups configured, your auto attendance, et cetera, et cetera? And the answer inevitably comes back as the same thing all the time. We don't know. And that's when the problem starts. And why don't they know? The folks that we're dealing with today probably aren't the ones that set up this system 5, 10, even 15 years ago in some cases. Nothing is documented in telephony. It's probably one of the most prevalent areas in IT where you can get away with not documenting anything anytime. And as a result, we've sent this customer now on a massive homework expedition to go figure out all this information, bring it back to us so we could build a proposal and show them what they need. This for us doesn't make sense anymore. And this is why these things drag. There's errors, there's risk involved and concern. So what did we do? We built some tooling and wrapped some processes around where we can go to your customer and analyze any of, let's say, the top 20 most popular PBXs that are out there. Cisco, Avaya, Mitel, Alcatel, Unify, you name it, we can do it. We go in, scan all of their systems, and next day we've got all of the data and start having a data-driven conversation and validating this information with the customer. And from here, we've got their total config. I know who their users are. I know who's using the phone. One of the big first questions that comes up when we're talking about phone system is like, I don't even know who's using the phone anymore. So I don't want to buy all these licenses if half of my team never picks up the phone anymore. We've got that info at our fingertips. We know what carriers they're with, what their numbers they're using, what rate center they're with. So day 1, we're able to have a data-driven conversation about what matters. And the other beautiful thing about this assessment is because things are different in a Microsoft telephony world than they are in an on-prem world, Microsoft can do almost all of the same things, but they do them a different way. So once we pull this data from the assessment, we juxtapose that with what a Microsoft environment is. And if there's any anomalies or things that stand out that don't flow through specifically, we address them and figure it out and deal with it with the customer. Good example is if you're familiar with the Cisco system, they have a concept of multi-line. Well, multi-line doesn't exist in a Microsoft world. They have the concept of delegate lines, private lines, shared lines, which is different. So we deal with it, we address it with the customer, which means we avoid any errors, we give the customer a ton of confidence and de-risk this process completely. So here we're talking accuracy. We've removed 80% of what's required for a customer to be involved here. We've reduced the errors by over 90%. We've sped up the process by 90%. And once I have this data, I can automatically build the configuration. So we can start migrating users in days. We don't have to wait months like what's going on today. Next place where there's a massive challenge, and we spoke about this very briefly before, is around porting numbers. So I'll get to our full offer in a second, but we provide direct routing as a service option where we can support your customer wherever they have sites around the world globally and act as their provider with the various arrangements we have with carriers around the world. But one of the biggest challenges is around porting. And porting is not, if anybody has been at a porting, everybody I speak to has had one bad porting experience. Porting is not a technical problem, it's an administrative challenge because you have to fill out these documents, there cannot have any errors, and you have to be really clear on who your users are, what their names are, what carriers these numbers are with, what the numbers are, and what rate centers are. So
Hey, Stephen,
yep, sure.
sorry to interrupt. We have a question.
Please.
Is there a customer size requirement?
So our floor is about 150 users. That's probably as low as we go. Our sweet spot and where we play the most is, let's say, a 500 to 8,000 users. We scale up really well, but we can't go below 150. It's just our cost structure doesn't allow us to.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. So just quickly on the porting side, we've automated the process probably 85% to the point where we're automatically building out the LOAs, CSRs for the customer, and sending them into a DocuSign to sell, taking all of the manual typing in numbers, copying and pasting from spreadsheets out of the equation. So there's no errors, it's smooth, and then we could track the port and know exactly where it is and what's going on at all times. Bit of a game changer in the porting world, which isn't the sexiest place to be, but it's an imperative to helping customer migrate their PBX. And then finally, the last example I'll share is really on the day two side. So I spoke a little bit before about being complicated, moving things and playing with PowerShell and Teams Admin Center. Part of our platform is a front end which allows you to fully automate your moves, adds, and changes. We can integrate with your customer's ITSM system, like ServiceNow, for example, and have, touchless onboarding and offboarding directly. Or we've got this front end that you see some examples on the screen right now where we can push all of the moves, adds, and changes down to entry-level help desk folks who don't need to know anything about telephony, don't need to know anything about Microsoft, and make changes in a safe and secure way. We've got help desk folks using this. We've got facilities folks, office managers. We've had some of our customers, interns that are doing this. And so what this does is it allows you to have super low cost moves, adds, and change. It allows the change to get done in seconds, same day, because when these come up, if they have to wait for your level 2, level 3 engineer, these aren't P1s, these are P4s. So they end up dragging and just being an overall pain in the what. So we've simplified this to the max. Full DID management. Your customers don't have to manage their numbers on spreadsheets anymore. There's some reporting that's built in. We're building out capabilities where they can manage the auto attendance and hunt groups on here. It's a phenomenal tool. And I could talk about this all day, but just trying to give you a quick taste of what's available. And so I think to wrap up a little bit around our capabilities around Teams calling, I'd really like you to think that anything that touches and related to Teams calling, we can handle. I don't like saying we do everything because it sounds like nobody believes that, but I'm asking you to believe it because we're so niche and focused on the calling piece, and to be able to deliver that most complete offer, we have to be able to do everything. So just kind of a quick recap. Day 0, we'll run those assessments where it's a full pre-sales engagement with us that we provide for the customer. And we're doing this to just gain a lot of trust and credibility. So I'm not charging for those things. I could if you want to, but we use those as opportunities to gain trust and credibility from the customer. We can run proof of values with them, whatever is necessary to help the customer feel confident about making a move to Teams. Then our offer, there's a couple of flavors. So one, we've got a full direct routing as a service option. So we become the customer service provider, and they leverage our SBCs that are hosted in Azure. We provide the PSTN. Our platform comes with it for all the moves, adds, and changes. We do everything A to Z and then support it with a 24/7, 365 managed service. Now, there could be a case where your customer has an arrangement with their telco or their SIP provider, and they don't want to use us for PSTN. No problem. We've got a full bring your own carrier offer. We can integrate your customer's SIP trunking integrated into our SBCs and still provide the full migration, management, support, and tooling with our platform. Perhaps your customer's already moved to Teams or wants to do it on their own. Option number 3 is if they've already moved or wants to do it on their own, but they need support and want someone to help them, well, they can just take our managed services, where we would provide 24/7, 365 support. We would add in our bundle in our portal with it. good to go. They're fully taken care of. And then the last option would be they don't want any of this stuff, but they want to take advantage of some of the automation and simplifying a lot of the day-to-day move that and change. They can buy our platform a la carte. So lots of ways to engage with a customer. We're super flexible. And the last piece I would mention in there is, again, like I said, whether it's paging, recording, contact center, integration with, other third-party applications like Salesforce, like in healthcare, Epic, potentially. There's a lot of things that we do in that space to, again, help the customers get value out of this technology and have the best experience possible. So far, so good?
There we go. We actually have a question.
Excellent.
How do you handle on-site installations?
So if like on site for, let's say, like to put phones on the desk and things like that sort of thing, or training.
And then, well, this includes overhead, page, etc.
Yeah. So we're able, believe it or not, we're able to do the vast majority of everything that we do remote. When we have to go on site, either someone from our team will go, or we work really closely with organizations that have, hands and feet really across the globe to do the basic physical install, whether it's a paging system, a phone on the desk, or whatnot. So we would handle it A to Z, again, regardless of where it is around the world. When it's in far-reaching places, we're going to send our third-party company that we work with, but we've got a great relationship with them. We manage the whole thing for the customer. There's nothing for them to do. We handle things from A to Z.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Of course. So, what's our value prop to all of you folks? So one, capturing this opportunity, but, we providing the fastest time to value on the market. So we get paid the fastest, getting a piece of that IT and telco spend if you're not selling telephony today, unlocking all of the service and software dollars in the Microsoft ecosystem, and I'll talk to that a little bit more in a second, and being really relevant, involved with any of the AI and Copilot conversations that are going on.
Okay, we have a couple more questions.
Sure.
Okay, can you support Operator Connect? What options internationally?
Say that one more time, Indy.
Oh, sorry. Can you support Operator Connect and what options internationally?
So we can integrate Operator Connect within our platform, within our tool. So no problem there. We could still support a customer and help them do the migration if they've chosen Operator Connect for PSTN, and still support the entire project and provide them managed services after. So yes, my answer is yes. The international piece, it's the same, no problem. We wouldn't sell them the Operator Connect piece directly. They would contract with any of the 70 plus people directly in the team's portal to do that. But being their ally and extension of their team and running the project and supporting it, absolutely no problem.
And what call center? Oh, I'm sorry. What call center platform do you have, and is it yours?
So it's not our own. So we work with Five9, we work with Cisco WebEx, and there's a couple of others that we're exploring right now, like Alandis. And there's one other where it's a little bit early days to talk about. It's a little bit more financial services focused. I'm having initial conversations with them, but those are the folks that we support with today. And then really focused on the integrations between Teams calling and those contact center platforms. And we're doing Microsoft and Five9. We're doing Microsoft and Cisco. So far, Microsoft and Landis is a no-brainer because Landis is really based almost exclusively on the Cisco platform. These things work really well. But so that's one thing. The second thing I will just add on this is, in some cases, we're getting into situations where the customer with another team, or it could be with you, are working with a contact center provider that we don't support and integrate with or sell, like Genesys, for example. That's not a problem for us. We play very nicely, even if we don't sell and implement and do everything. So if you had a customer that was either working with Genesys, I'm just using them as an example because they're so popular, on the contact side with another partner, working Genesys with you, but then us for telephony, that works well. We don't fight and cause trouble in those situations. We do our job, but then go the extra mile to make sure those integrations work really well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
For sure. So a little bit of ideal customer profile for us. So we're essentially targeting customers that have headquarters or IT decision making here in North America. They could have operations anywhere globally. Now, if you're connected with a customer that has, IT decision making out of the UK, for example, we're not going to say no, but generally speaking, this is the ideal customer profile, so that's what it is. The question came up before around size. So ideal is that 500 to plus, but we can go down to 150. So just to share with you, the verticals where we play, so financial services, manufacturing, healthcare, education, legal, state and local government, and tech. We don't do FedGov. We are not connected on the right buying vehicles and whatnot. So that's the only public sector that we would stay away from. Everything else is fair game. And having more and more of a focus around healthcare, financial services. I'm going to be working with some of the leadership on your team for some healthcare initiatives, specifically around hospitals, because there's some really interesting integrations that Microsoft has with Epic and other things they can do in the hospital. So I'm actually should have a meeting next Monday, the 8th, to share with Microsoft what we can do for some hospitals. So if there's any interest there, please connect with Ed or me, and we could just connect some of the dots. And if you want to listen in on that session, that works well. But these are the ones we primarily play in. And then, so what does a good opportunity look like? Well, customers using Microsoft for collaboration. That's important. What I mean by collaboration is, they're using Teams for chat, they're using Teams for meetings. Like those are good contract. Those are ideal because that really helps tell the story and guide them as to why they should be adding this other wedge to complete the pie, because of the integration, because of the experience, all their data is in the same place that can then be leveraged for Copilot. It's a really important story. It's not a showstopper if they're planning on going to it, but it's important. Other things to look for, their phone system contract is coming due or support is coming due. Those are phenomenal triggers. Your customers are moving, if there's a merger or acquisition, all things to show them how we can adapt quickly and adjust. But if Microsoft is strategic for them, we can make the case why this is a no-brainer for them to move and beat out the usual suspects like RingCentral, Zoom, Dialpad, and whatnot. We're cost competitive there. We've been in those price bake-offs, which is not where we want to play, but I'm sharing with you is we understand where the price points are in the market and can make it happen and be very competitive there. And what you see on the right are just some customer pain points that you may come across as you're speaking with your customers or know your customers or whatnot. So we touched on carrier management a little bit. We love organizations that have small IT teams and just don't have the resources to focus and manage and be like a superstar rock star on their telephony. In fact, most companies we see don't want to be managing their phone system in 2024. So small resources that they can focus on more strategic applications. Not that telephony is not important. Telephony is a critical application for businesses. It's just not super strategic. So if they can find a partner like us together to do that for them, really solves that problem. There's certain integrations are important for them. Maintenance costs are too high. This is something that's really important. I can't tell you how many times we go through a costing exercise and we're saving a customer ridiculous amounts of money. Just last week, we're working with a customer, they were paying 2.5 times more on their telco bill than what they're going to pay with us. There's real potential for hard dollar cost savings here. I wouldn't, a lot of times we say, oh yeah, we'll save them money. And even me too, I would be a little desensitized to that. In these cases where a customer's with, a traditional carrier that they've been for a long time, there's massive savings that we can affect and improve. And we'll do those business cases for you, with you.
Hey, Stephen.
Yes.
Sorry, we have about 5 minutes left, and I have another question.
Shoot, please.
Do you have to contract this call center supplier, or can I get it all through Ziro? So one bill, one for support.
You could do one bill, one for support.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Of course. And then just, some last thing. So they want a better experience. They want to integrate UC into the rest of their IT portfolio just to streamline things and make their operations easier. And then again, improve their overall process. Just some stuff about us, really quickly. Your team gave us a good vetting, but it's important that you feel comfortable as well. So we recently just won MSP of the Year by UC Today, which we're really proud of. Got great retention with our customers. We typically lose a customer if they move to a platform that we don't support. So we're proud of that. Very high NPS score. And here's just some logos to show you that we're playing with some real players. We've got a great reputation, and are really excited about this new partnership. Here's some more stuff about us. I'll send you this presentation so you could have it. But as somewhat of a call to action, so like, where could we get started? I think the best way is for us, and the biggest impact and wow factor, like to go right off the bat, is to identify a customer or two where we can run this assessment with. When we come back with all this information next day and show the customer how much we know about their environment, it is such a relief for them because they have no way of accessing and getting this information. So one, we're doing a great service for the customer. Gives us an opportunity to have an awesome conversation about what's important for them. We build a ton of trust, and then there's no strings attached here. If it doesn't work out, that we don't do a deal together or whatever, this information is theirs. We're using it as a way to get in the door, give some value upfront right away. And so our offer to all of you today is leverage this, use it. We'd be happy to get started. There's a fairly simple process on how to do that. Your go-to folks are myself and my colleague, Fred, today. You could reach out to either of us at any time. We commit to getting back to you same day, real fast. We are hungry, excited, and are looking forward to being successful with you guys.